Hello and welcome to the video lecture associated with union joins. This is a very interesting piece of SQL. I have used this very often, but it's not something that a lot of people make a lot of use out of. I myself find it terribly useful. So let's take a look at this. If we go back to our relationships, if I wanted to see all of my salespeople and all of my customers logically using joins, the normal inner joins and outer joins, I would have to work my way from salesperson to territory to business to customer. We'll get there. That's something that we're going to do in a different video lecture later on in this chapter. But in this case, what we're looking at is I just want to see all of my customers and all of my salespeople. Now, looking at these two tables, they are not structurally identical. For instance, there is no fax number in the customer table, right? There is an address, there is a city, there is a state, there is a zip code, there's a name, there's an ID, but there's no telephone and no fax in the customer table. So we couldn't just simply stack these one on top of the other directly. So in other words, if we ran a select statement such as this, select star from customer T, for instance. So we're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns returned. Right? If we ran the same type of select star from salesperson T, we would get 8 columns returned. So if we try to do that, go back to SQL view, the way you union select statements together or record sets together is simply by using the union keyword. But if I try to put two record sets together that are not structurally similar, so again, these two record sets, right, it is salesperson T, salesperson T. So I'm selecting star from customer T, that is going to be 6 columns. If I union that with doing a select star from salesperson T, which is 8 columns, and I try to run that, I am going to get an error that the number of columns in the two selected tables of queries do not match. So I can't do that. But I still want to see them together. So let's start off with something simple. Let's do customer name. Hey, look, oh, my spelling's getting better. And salesperson name. Now if I run that, poof, I get the two of them put together. Isn't that nice? And then I can go back to the SQL and I can add other things in there, right? I can add in customer address, but if I add in customer address, I also have to add it in to the other query. They have to be structurally similar. Salesperson address. I think that's the name of the column. There you go. All right, so now we have our customer name and address. Now, something should strike you right here that customer name is not really the name of this column. That does not accurately describe the information that's in this column. The information in this column is a combination of customers and salespeople, right? This isn't just our customers. So we really should alias that first column. Now here's the second part of how union queries work. Union queries take their aliases only from the first column. So if I do as fname, for instance, and I run this, you'll see that now the column is changed to fname. If I change this and I try to put an alias on the second column, it has no effect whatsoever on the second SQL statement. So aliases on any of the queries other than the first. Now, I'll tell you that you can union multiple things together, right? So I could put another union in here. And in this case, let's do vendor. Right, so let's bring vendor into this. So I'm going to select vendor name and vendor address from the vendor T table. I'm going to run that. Oh, vendor, I tell you. Spelled it right in the other one. So see, now I've got a combination of my salespeople, my customers, and my vendors. And the other thing of this is you should be looking at saying, wow, isn't that interesting that they're all in alphabetical order? Now, what's going on there, and the reason it's in alphabetical order is because the union statement by itself is trying to get rid of duplicates. If you did this, union all, and then ran it, you'll notice that it's not in alphabetical order. So you should know from your previous history with programming that if you want to get rid of duplicates, the first thing you have to do is put them in order. And as soon as you put them in order, then you can loop through them and get rid of any that are duplicated. So now we're doing union all. Union all will not try to get rid of duplicates, therefore will not put it in any kind of an order. The other thing that you should be looking at is, well, how would I put this in order? Well, you don't put an order by clause in each of these. So for instance, you wouldn't put it in the first one and say order by customer name, for instance. If I run that, it doesn't work, right? It's not actually in alphabetical order, is it? So one of the other things is that the order by clause for union statements gets only enforced if you put it at the end of the very last select statements. Now if I run this, oh, sorry, should make that vendor name. Ooh, and actually, I'm sorry, this is a union query, so we have to simply use the index of the columns. So in this case, we would order by 1, which would be the index of the first column. So now it puts the first column in alphabetical order. One last thing before we leave this topic. There is a problem with this, isn't there? I really have no idea who's the customer, who's the vendor, who's the salesperson. This is a very nice time to use what's known as a string literal. So I can just pluck information out of the air. So if I use double quotes and I say customer as, let's just say type. All right, so the alias of this column is going to be type. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a string literal for each of these. So this is going to be salesperson. I don't have to alias that because I aliased it in the first one. And then this is going to be our vendors. So now if I run this, now I've got a column that actually tells me the difference. All right, so now I can see who's my customers, who are my salespeople, who are my vendors. All right, and that concludes my video lecture on union statements.